Kuala Lumpurians. I have no idea what you call people from there.
Koalas.
Koalas, yes, thank you. Let's say you have your koala. Crap, this sounds potato. So you have your, where's Kuala Lumpur again? Singapore. Singaporeans. So you have your Singaporeans working on a product, and at some point they say it is done. Why can't you just put it on a website and be done with it? What's this manufacturing we're talking about? Go on, help me. Yes?
Final design.
What was that?
Final design.
So you mean layout and beautification. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good example. Okay, so you want to add some extra things to it. What else goes into the software package?
Security. Security.
Security, yeah, but that should, yeah, in a way, but that should also be done earlier. So security is a concern you're always dealing with. You constantly have to think about it. It's a nice example. So you might want to add some extra that as a feature as well. Yeah. So in what language will the product be at the time of delivery? What do they speak in Singapore? I don't know. English. I think.
English.
Yeah. So we have an English product, and you want to release it to the Netherlands, and my mom has to use it. Well, so you need a translation, so you need the language files, you need to write the documentation, you need to write specifications for the marketing people. So you can imagine that after final testing, there's still a lot of work to be done. You might even say, okay, putting the general release out there, this is already a box shape, but the box isn't done yet. You still have to do all that. Well, later on I'll give you some nice examples of companies where they do that too. So here you see the justification for the study, and the question of course was, the release of a new car model is about 36 months. The release for a new printer used to be 22 months, I think now it's maybe 10 months or so. These companies are really quick. So how long does it take to release a new software product? 5 months? 20 months? 7 years? I mean, the problem here is that even this study doesn't give a precise answer to it, because some products take 5, 6, 7 years to develop, whereas others can be developed in a month or 2 months. Well, justification, of course. So why do you do this kind of study? Well, you want to know when your R&D investment is paid back, and you want to, what happens. Currently, you see more and more that people are looking more and more for newer products. So you guys on Facebook, you expect it to do newer things in a week or two than it did today. Which, 5 years ago, that would be ludicrous to expect something to have new features in 2-3 weeks. So the question constantly is, okay, what is the time to completion, and how do you deal with time-based competition? If you hear your customer or your competitor is releasing new features in 3 months, you need to release those same features in 4 or 5 months, or 6 or 7. But be quick about it. Well, here's some definitions. Productivity. Well, I think. So I said 10 lines, so it's 20 lines per person day, according to this study, and this was back in the 90s, so it might have increased to 40, 50. Well, this is an interesting one. So there it says effort is lines of code. Can anybody tell me why that is a strange metric?
Because better code is shorter, usually.
That's an interesting one. Better code is shorter. I like that. You're one of those, how do you say that? Elegance guys. I like that. So better code is shorter, that might be one. We already have comparison between Joey and me. Joey writes 100 lines of quite crappy code. I write 10 beautiful code. It started nice, didn't it? I started by being really friendly.
It did, half an hour.
Exactly. And of course, so productivity it's only a question of how you want to see it. A more interesting way of looking at it, I think, is looking at these. Well, we say hours here, but we could say points. And say, okay, well, Slinger has finished 40 points in this week, and he said he would finish 40 points. So obviously, this guy is pretty productive. You can also imagine that. You can take different looks at this productivity. What's important again? So I talked already about the difference between one developer and another developer. If you want to compare developers, you better do it in a very, how do I say it, careful way. So you shouldn't be the manager that says, why have you this week only created 50 lines of code? And then, if the guy goes, well, I was sick for 2 days and, I created really good code and I tested it and it's all fine. So, it's fine to create these really nice Excel overviews, but you shouldn't just, look at the numbers and fire somebody based on them. Like I said, some developers write very short, elegant code, only need very short pieces of code to think about it for a very long time, whereas others, they just type away and they create good code, but maybe a little bit crappy. So you should never use it against people, and data precision is not an issue. So if developers in your company create 40 or 50 lines of code per day, and in another company it's only 10 lines of code per day, maybe the other company is just a whole different type of company. Maybe it's a different context, maybe it's NASA. NASA works in a different way, for obvious reasons. So, you know, do metrics, but be careful. So here we're going to look at some productivity accelerators. These are accelerators that Carmel came up with, so he was the one who introduced these. So what he said, development method determines how quick you work. So the waterfall method may be slower than the agile method, or a more prototype steered method. So incremental, evolutionary. Development team. So if you add more people to the team, you might be more productive. But it's also important what kind of individuals are these and what are the group characteristics. I once saw a team, it was quite interesting, where it was 4 Romanian guys working together very intensely at a large Dutch company. And they were joined by a girl who looks a little bit like Kirsten, long, tall, blonde hair. And it all started out very nice. I hope you're paying attention, Kirsten, I'm talking about you again. And she was pretty, but not like drop dead pretty. She was just, you know, a good looking, nice girl. But she was very bubbly and always laughing and always having fun. And you saw that these 4 guys, they liked working with her a lot. You could see that but they were also talking a lot more. There was more competition amongst them. So when she entered the team, they didn't get more productive, they actually got less productive. Simply because they didn't fit. Now, had she joined a team of 4 other blondes who were also programming together, well, that may have worked better, or not, I don't know. So, like I said, group characteristics are really important. Later on, we'll talk about this a little bit more, probably not today. And of course, resources, office space, environment, social, tools and infrastructure, and labor. What do I want to say about this? Well, you can imagine that an automatic integration tool that automatically integrates all components, puts them together, and makes sure it tests them, is really important, very cheap, and can save you a lot of trouble, like we already saw in the previous part of this presentation. So tools are really important. Infrastructure. At Exact we had the problem that, I say we, when I was doing my research there, they had the problem that building the product would take 8 to 20 hours. So that's too long, as you can imagine, especially if somebody's working here in the Netherlands for 8 hours, then they continue in Kuala Lumpur, and then they continue in the United States. So the infrastructure there was that they had a very crappy old server doing all the building. So what they needed to do was get a better server. So you can see infrastructure is important there. Well, all the other things you can imagine yourself. Well, project management. How do you manage your people? How do you handle milestones? How do you distribute tasks? What is your management style? What tools are being used? Then, of course, risk analysis. So somebody constantly thinking for the team and with the team. Like, the thing you're doing there, using that open source GPL component, is a little bit dangerous. Or this technology we're using is not super reliable. Should we do that, or will it slow down our project? Incremental innovation. So how do you go from one product to the next? And all these 6 factors can speed up product development, according to Carmel. So 1 and 2 came from software research, and the other all came from general development. And you can tell, I mean, the first 2 have the word development in them, and the rest, resources, project management, risk analysis, incremental innovation, they all have to do just with traditional product development. Now I think I'm going to end, yes, I'm going to end on that slide. So at least you've seen those 6, and I will continue next week with still a little part from this presentation. Right now, are there any questions, issues, problems? No? There's one small point I'd like to make. I just saw a nice organogram. How come door Nederlands? Organogram. Ik heb net een prachtig organogram gezien. Dat zag er zo uit. Ik simplificeer even. Ja, ik simplificeer even. Dat zag er zo uit. Ja, wat is hier specifiek mis mee? Ja, hier had je NMD staan. En hier had je simplificeer erg, ik weet niet precies hoe het staat, maar hier op de sales staat. En je hoort hem al, kijk, alleen RD wil ik natuurlijk niet zien. Ik wil weten, hang hier, product 1, of 10 product 1, of product 2, 10 onder. Of is het meer componenten en de vraag is ook weer waar zit de productmanager nou gedraaid. Dus zit hier een productmanager of zit hier een productmanager. Dus ik wil veel meer detail. Maak het lekker high fidelity. En ja, ik denk dat dat wel eens een belangrijk puntje is. Dus ik zorg er gewoon voor dat het lekker data rich is. Laat wel de details zien. Want alleen maar zo'n groot plaatje, ja dat geloof ik wel. Daar kun je ook niet zoveel identificatie op doen. Dus je kan niet zeggen van, ja, als je alleen dit stuk hebt. Ja, is dit een P-structuur of een F-structuur? Ja, het is een F-structuur, maar ja. Weet je het nog? F is dus op basis van functie, dus sales versus ND. En dit is een P-structuur op basis van product, P1 en P2. Ja? Alright, dat is even, de naam is nog even. Alright, dus jullie
Gelijk even vragen over.
mooi.
Die spendeert zoveel tijd aan.
Ja, ik heb niks gedaan hoor, alleen aangedrukt.